One says, and the Lord commanded. And the other says, all of you came to me and said, let us send men to spy out the land. And Moses said, it seemed like a good idea to me. From this day forward, for the rest of your and my life, we should always ask the question before we make a move. Is this a good idea, or is this a God idea? Help me solve this. I have two passages here that seem to be contradictory. One says it was commanded by God, and the other says it was men's suggestion. In order to unravel this, firstly, let's recognize that Moses is the author of both books. So he wrote both accounts. So was the sending of the spies a good idea, or was it a God idea? Let's get in some illustrations as the distinctions. You remember when God promised Abraham, I'm going to bless your seed? But evidently, he wasn't moving fastly enough. And so Sarah came up with what she thought was a good idea. Abraham, I'm past that point now. Why don't I send my maidservant in to you? And I recognize that Abraham thought it was a pretty good idea himself. He did not protest the suggestion. And so they proceeded with what seemed to be a good idea, and Ishmael was born. But that was not the God idea. The God idea brought later on the son Isaac. So now there's Abraham standing in the middle of his mess and his miracle. One was a good idea, and the other was a God idea. Now, it's more complicated today. There are a lot of more ramifications involved now in the Middle East, but if you want to boil it down to a least common denominator, all of the mess that's going on in the Middle East right now ain't nothing but a fight between a good idea and a God idea. There's several other examples. Jethro says to Moses, man, you're working too hard. He said, I think you ought to put so many over 100 and so many over 50 and so many over and so many over. And you only deal with the major stuff. Seemed to be a good idea. But the God idea was, Moses, I want you to choose 70 men. And I'm going to put my spirit on you. And then that spirit will trickle down on them. Even all the way back to the Garden of Eden, God's idea was of every tree you may eat, but of that one tree. But Satan came along with a good idea. Hath not God said that the day that ye eat thereof, ye shall not surely die, ye shall not surely die. And the text says, and Eve looked upon the fruit and saw that it was good. So she ate. Because she executed the good idea. Thank you. Instead of the God idea, man failed. So let's go back to the text. Was the sending of the spies a good idea, or was it a God idea? Let me ask this question. Why would God need a spy? I'm talking about God. Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, knows everything, has all power, and is everywhere at the same time. Why would God need a spy when he told them before they ever got anywhere near the place? Matter of fact, all the way back to Abraham, he says, I'm going to bless your seed, and I'm going to give you a land that's flowing. So what would God be checking out? So Moses said, all of you came to me and said, let us send men to spy out the land so that we may know what route to take. Does this sound strange to you? From the moment they set out from Egypt, they had to worry about what route. God was leading them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. When it moved, they moved. When it stopped, they stopped. Isn't it strange that after God brings some of us so far, we get this attitude, I'll take it from here. Let us understand that there were 600,000 men, not counting women and children, that came out of Egypt. So we're talking maybe 2 million people. Moses is tired. And he says in that verse, all of you came to me and said. Now, you know, if all of them came to him and said that, you know they met the night before. Oh, no. Church folk don't do nothing spontaneous. By the time we get to the meeting, we done had the meeting. All of you came to me and said, let us. Now that had to be rather intimidating. So Moses said, well, it seemed like a good idea to me. But now I really believe that somewhere between the two accounts, that when the church folk came to Moses, he went to God. and say, here's what they want.